On today's episode of the Mark Titus Show, it is the greatest spectacle in racing this weekend, the Indianapolis 500. It is also just the greatest weekend in racing. It is the Coca-Cola 600 is taking place. If you're a NASCAR fan, if you're a Formula One fan, we got Monaco. This is the one time of year I like to pivot the show away from basketball. But having said that, I still brought Tate on. Ohio State is here to once again to talk about the NBA playoffs. So what we have on the docket today, I talked to Tate about the NBA playoffs, the early reactions to Game 1. We're recording this before Game 2 of Pacers-Celtics tonight. So as of right now, as of this recording, we have seen one game from each of the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference Finals. And Tate and I just kind of talked about everything from the Minnesota Timberwolves drop coverage to the Pacers choking it at the end of Game 1, obviously, to how good is Luka. Kyrie has become. I mean, he hasn't become. He's always been really, really good, but he's a guy that people almost forgot how good he was. It's like there's a Kyrie renaissance. Can we say that? Did I just coin that? Are other people saying that? Because I might have just come up with something there. Yeah, Kyrie Irving had a hell of a first half, great game, but first half especially, and then Luka takes over the second half. Had fun discussions with Tate. I really enjoy having Tate on. I think we're going to see if you're someone that's locked in on the Mark Titus Show, I think you might be seeing more of Tate on this show because I enjoy talking ball with him. But after Tate, I brought on Spider, who does Rubbing His Racing with Large here at Barstool. They do the NASCAR podcast. They do a great job. I love both of those guys. But I did this last year on the show. When I was in New York for whatever reason at that time, I had Spider come on the show to talk about what is the best weekend in racing. If you like auto sports, this weekend, this Sunday in particular, the Indy 500, Monaco, and the Coca-Cola 600, it is awesome. It is incredible that all those stars align to have one day where you can park your ass on the couch, watch all the racing. And so Spider and I, we talk racing a lot. We talk a lot about NASCAR. He's shown an interest in the Indy 500. I got to get him to one at some point. I've been interested in NASCAR my whole life. I had a ton of fun having him on last year and just celebrating, both disciplines of racing and the differences between them and all that sort of thing. So we're running it back again this year, especially because Kyle Larson is the guy who is maybe it's not even arguable. I don't know. I'm not as clued in on NASCAR, but I think it's pretty safe to say if you were someone who said he's the best NASCAR driver going right now, I don't think that's necessarily controversial. He is participating in the double duty this year, which is he is going to run in the Indianapolis 500 in the afternoon. He is going to fly to Charlotte, North Carolina immediately after Indy's over. He is going to then take part in the Coca-Cola 600. And what makes this super fascinating, one, is that it's been 10 years since anybody's tried this. There have been a handful of guys through the years that have done both. Tony Stewart's done it. Robbie Gordon's done it. John Andretti's done it. Kurt Busch, did it 10 years ago. But what makes this year specifically super interesting and has everybody kind of foaming at the mouth if you're into this sort of thing is that Kyle Larson has the talent to win both of them. He could theoretically win both of them. Unlikely, obviously, to win both of them. Very hard to win either one. So for him to win both, it would be crazy. But he has the ability, he has the car in both instances to win both of them. So Spider and I are really fired up about this idea of a guy not only running the double duty. By the way, it's only ever happened one time. Tony Stewart, one time is the only time, I forget what year, but one of the times he did it is the only time anybody's ever ran both races in full. So to even complete both races has only happened one time, much less win them, much less be in contention. So, it's a long shot probably for him to win both. Not even probably, it is for him to win both of them. But the fact that he has the talent, he's in position. He's starting fifth in the Indy 500. The Coca-Cola 600, he's in a position. He's a full-time NASCAR driver. He's very, very good. I don't think that would exactly be shocking if he ended up winning the Coca-Cola 600. So to start fifth in one race, be so dominant in the other sport of NASCAR, it's setting up this Sunday to where Kyle Larson is gonna try to pull off the double duty, and he just might contend in both races. And Spider and I are really fired up about it. So he's on the show today. We talked about that, but first talked a little basketball with Tate before we get to Spider. Fun show today. Hope you enjoy. All right, NBA playoff talk. The Eastern Conference Finals are, as of right now, it's 1-0 Boston. We'll talk about that a little bit. Pacers choked away Game 1 badly. Everybody listening, obviously, Game 2 already happened. The Pacers won by 15. They bounced back really well. I felt like Tyrese Halliburton in Game 2 played really well. The Celtics weren't hitting anything. Classic Game 2 performance. What other predictions do we want to have?
Just Game 2. Celtics can't win in Game 2. Happened again.
No. Last time I did this, I said the Celtics were going to beat the Cavs by 1,000. And then
it was
the
first thing you said on the show.
Yes, you know what? Fuck it. The Celtics are going to win by 1,000 tonight. Pacers are going to go back to Indy down 2-0. But yeah, obviously that game hasn't happened yet as we're recording this, so can't really speak much on that. But what we can talk about is the Dallas Mavericks go into Minnesota. Beat the Timberwolves 108-105 last night. And that series is obviously looking like it's going to be something. I think a lot of people expected. I don't know. The Timberwolves were favored, right? A lot of people. The Timberwolves were favored.
Yes.
But not only were the Timberwolves favored, but the Timberwolves I think had the cachet of having defeated the defending champions, the 3-time MVP Jokic. That defense was like jumping off the screen at people. That yes, we watched Oklahoma City play Dallas, but for some reason, I think going into the series, it felt like I didn't need to be explained how. I'll put it this way: Luka Doncic, his defensive effort throughout his career has poisoned my brain to believe that no team that Luka is on can be good defensively, despite all the evidence to the contrary, which is like he has 1,000 great athletes around him and all the length around him, and like
he's playing better.
And
defense
he's playing
himself.
better defense too.
Did I see?
It's crazy.
Multiple efforts last night. Out of Luka.
So I guess that's my way of saying, like, going into the series, I was like, yes, the Timberwolves are going to play great defense. The Mavs should play great defense, but we'll see because it's still Luka, and like. He's been locked in these playoffs defensively.
Yeah, and last night was a perfect example of, I thought going into this, I was just wrong. The NBA, it's every other game, overreaction.
Yeah.
If we would have filmed this show yesterday, I would have told you how the T-Wolves are going to run away with this. They're playing the best basketball. They just knocked out. Now I'm here today saying, wait, is this why the Mavericks made the trade for Kyrie? Like,
is this series over?
They already stole one. They win another. It's over. So last night was fun, though.
It is fun. Both these series are going to be fun. I think the
no, that's
okay.
I don't want to jump it.
Okay,
that's you having a little Indiana in you. There is one series that's going to be fun, Mark Titus.
Okay,
and it is not the Eastern Conference.
Listen, I'm setting myself up for failure because again, the Boston Celtics did win by 10,000 last night. In Game 2. I think the Pacers. The reason why it stood out to me. I wanted to talk about Minnesota Mavericks first, but fuck it, let's just talk about Pacers Celtics Game 1. Okay, the difference. So the Celtics fuck up one game every series.
Correct.
They did it against the Cavs.
Game 2, yep.
They've done it last year. They do it every. It feels like this.
They're
this
good
iteration,
for one.
They're good for one.
Yep.
They'll just like hand a game to an inferior opponent and say here.
And it's been at home too, which
take
is
a win.
weird.
Yeah,
like it's been at home.
So the Pacers spot them 12 points. The Pacers come back. The Pacers are winning. The Pacers are in position to win. It's 98% win probability, 99%, whatever it was.
With the ball. 10 seconds left.
All you have to do is inbound the ball. And make them one free throw. That's
throw.
it. That's all you have to do. It's elementary stuff. 7th graders could do it.
We'll talk fouling up 3. We'll talk it all.
Okay, we'll talk it all. So this felt like on paper, or if you didn't really pay that much attention, maybe this was the reason the Pacers, who are vastly outmatched according to odds makers, according to experts, all that sort of thing. The reason this game, they almost stole this game, is because the Celtics are good for one every series, and that's what that game was. What I would challenge, though, is that one, the Celtics, when they fuck up and they blow a game, it's usually because they're not hitting threes. The other team is hot, and it's like the Celtics they hit 12 threes, and say the team they're playing hit like 21, and that makes a big difference. Game 1, Celtics hit more threes.
Yep.
Celtics were shooting the ball fine. I didn't really feel like the Celtics played like dog shit.
Correct. 3 players over 25 points. Like the Celtics were not bad. But was this the one that they usually give up and they still won?
But everybody said this about the Knicks series with the Pacers. When the Pacers blew Game 1 against the Knicks, and you're like, that you had to win that one. Now the series is over.
Correct.
So I think the Celtics are going to win the series. I just when I was watching Game 1, it didn't feel like a fluke, because I think the way beating the Celtics feels like a fluke is that the Celtics have the best offense in the NBA, and they are an unstoppable offense, and they hit in threes, and Tatum and Brown, you can't guard them one-on-one, and like they're just so versatile. Number one, Porzingis isn't playing, and that changes everything. When 39-year-old, 43-year-old, how old is he now?
One of those two.
When Al Horford is shooting 12 threes in a game, you're playing right into you.
Correct.
And Al Horford could hit threes, but
but 12.
You don't want him shooting 12. So I think the way the Celtics have overwhelmed teams is that they are so high-powered offensively that you have two options. One is stop them. Good luck with that.
Correct.
The other one is like match them on the other end with your offense. And I think the Pacers, they don't have the talent the Celtics have. They do have the comfort level of like
playing at that pace.
If we have to play at this pace.
Yep.
So if we're going into again, I hate that we're doing this because Game 2 happened last night and the Celtics won by 1,000. I'm talking about the bigger series.
Mm-hmm.
If the Pacers are going to every game against the Celtics and the Celtics are saying the only way you can beat us is if you push tempo and you hit a ton of threes and you have a bunch of shot makers, the Pacers are like, cool.
Advantage Pacers.
Like we're good with that. That's why I think it could be a series and like it could be interesting. The Celtics are going to eventually win because they have more talent. But that's why I believe the Pacers, it's not going to be a sweep.
I agree with you on that. My thing
like
comes from where I say it's not going to be series is the mental toll that has come on the Pacers for it's hard enough to beat the Celtics already.
Yeah.
They did it, and then it didn't count.
I know.
You know what I mean?
So
that's where the mental toll. But if we're talking strictly basketball-wise, you're saying we're playing at the Pacers' pace. Okay.
Right.
We turned the ball over 22 times, which led to 32 points against the Celtics. We can clean that up. We can clean up a lot of things.
Clean it up,
and
dude.
And then we almost won in Boston.
Yeah.
So basketball-wise, it's like, the Pacers can win this.
If you focus on the basketball part, there's a reason to believe that they can win. It's the humanity part of like, how can you be in that locker room and not just be like, fuck, dude, and like have like the deflation of
like if you're Rick Carlisle, dude, what do you say in the locker room afterwards? Like, hand up, that one was on me. You guys deserve to win.
Yeah, he probably did. He probably said I should have called timeout. They had a timeout left, right?
They had a timeout, so they didn't advance the ball. Also, I hate to get too coachy into this.
No, dude, that's why you're here.
When you are trying to inbound the basketball,
going away from your bat,
I want people coming towards the basketball. I don't think the Pacers inbound play put them in the best position to inbound the basketball. Like they had the guy going from mid-court towards the hoop.
Yeah.
You're throwing it that way. Jaylen Brown has all the recovery time to get his hand on it. Now they get the luck of the draw where it goes out of bounds on the Pacers.
Hindsight's obviously 20/20, but
right.
They would have been better off also not throwing it towards Boston.
Correct.
Like have a guy going that way, throw it long, it tips off of a Pacers play, it goes out of bounds. But
and now they have it under
90.
the bucket.
Yeah, but now you're giving them under the bucket,
right?
Which, but there's a lot of hindsight.
So he fucked up the
ultimately,
inbound.
what you don't want to do is just fuck up the inbound. But
they fucked up the inbound.
Yeah.
Then, shout out to the Celtics, who all the Pacers had to do was execute end of game. Didn't. Celtics did.
Yeah.
Get quite the fucking look. Are you fouling at the end of the game?
All right. So that's the question: is the foul up three? I do foul up three. I think you foul. I was texting the Mostly Sports chat. When the Pacers turned it over, I said foul here, and then I just replied. I just kept saying foul because I was like, as they handed them the ball, I just had a feeling in my as I'm watching the game, I'm like, they're not going to foul. So I just kept texting foul. You were
texting the wrong chat, Titus.
I think I was. I should have texted
Carlisle instead of freaking.
The one thing I will say is the NBA is different from high school and college with the continuation. That I think if this is college basketball, Jaylen Brown catches the ball. Siakam could hack him right away,
on the arm.
And then if Jaylen Brown goes up,
they're saying no
they're
way.
Saying, no, on the floor.
Right.
NBA, that's risky as fuck.
Risky.
It's risky as fuck because if it's a catch and no dribbles, and he wasn't particularly it wasn't like a dead on catch thing, which is how Jaylen Brown got the shot off. But if he's crawling up into his shit on the catch, maybe you could foul real quick.
Mm-hmm.
But he was like he was still kind of closing out with the foul. I thought the circumstances. You should foul up three, absolutely. But I think if he fouls and Jaylen Brown goes up for the continuation and they give him 3 free throws and Jaylen Brown makes all 3 free throws, you're also looking at that and you're like, the Pacers are the dumbest motherfuckers ever. Why would they foul in that situation?
I think that, so if we're power ranking the fuck-ups by Rick Carlisle in the last 10 seconds, the foul up 3, to me, has been treated like it's number 1. It should be number 3.
Yeah.
Like not using a timeout and taking it to the other end of the court is inexcusable.
That's bad.
I didn't like their execution on their inbounds play. Yes, I'm a foul up 3 guy. You are correct that it is much easier to do in high school and college when there's no continuation. Also, there was 8.5 seconds left.
Yeah.
That
makes it a little.
You might have to do that too. Maybe.
Yeah.
So he makes both free throws. They come down. You better make both your free throws. Now there's 7 seconds left. Are you doing it again?
Yeah, you do it again. Yeah.
So I think he's getting a bad rap for the not foul. Like under 5 seconds, I'm 100% of the time. That's what we teach. You're doing it. 8 seconds left is a lot of time.
Also, the shot Jaylen Brown made was insane. Like that was.
Yeah, he misses that. We all are like
coached. If you're from the future and you go to Rick Carlisle right before that possession and you play that clip for him and you pause it as Jaylen Brown is shooting the basketball and you're like, that's the shot you're going to give up.
Good
here.
Defense.
He would be like, fuck yeah, dude. Yeah. Sign me up for that. Yeah. I have a guy crawling. Now, Siakam didn't have a hand up, obviously, which I also didn't have a problem.
He had a hand in his ass. Did you see that?
I didn't have a problem with it because of I wonder how much Shea's foul in Game 7 played into that.
Influence that.
Yeah, where he's like, the last thing I want to do is foul him now. But he was like crawled up into him a little bit otherwise, and like it was a tough shot. He made a tough shot, and the Celtics.
The benefit we have though is that we are podcasters doing it after the fact,
right?
And now it's like, Carlisle, what the fuck, dude?
I know
you should have known.
Well, that's what I'm like. I didn't really have a problem. Like for me, the inbounds, the Nembhard inbounds was brutal. Obviously that set up the three. That one was really bad. Really though, it's Halliburton dribbling out of bounds twice.
Yeah,
it's Drew Holiday. Those were the two that's like you can't have your best player, your franchise player, your guy who's going off. You know, like you just can't have that can't happen. Mm-hmm. It can't happen. If that happened, if you're in high school and that happened, you got to be irate as a coach.
Horrible.
So like the fact that an NBA player, and Drew Holiday's awesome, and Drew Holiday, that's what he does is he pressures you. He makes you think about things you don't want to have to think about. But like. Mm-hmm. We're NBA players here. Like you can't just be dribbling the ball out of bounds.
But in totality, like all of those things contributing, that's one of the worst like end of game playoff losses that I can remember.
It is
Game 1. You're about to steal one in a series where people are really doubting you. You're at their place.
As far as Pacers losses go, that's not the worst. That's probably not the worst Pacers loss ever. But I have my interest in the Indiana Pacers has waxed and waned through the years, and this team. It's not just this playoff run, but this entire season, this team has pulled me back in, and that's probably the worst one I've experienced as a Pacers fan, if that makes sense. Which is like I'm not speaking on behalf of the whole fan base, but yeah, this is like this to me is the most likable Pacers team in my lifetime. I fucking love them, but I'm also like I was one of the guys that wasn't into Reggie when I was a kid, and everyone else.
That's a shocker.
So everyone else will tell you.
In
like,
what
the teams
world
in
is
the 90s,
Mark Titus growing up in small town Indiana?
Well, I just don't think just because the guy is playing for your team, like I identified quickly he was a flopper, and you know
you were more into good shooters because you were a shooter, and you're like Miller can't put the ball in the ocean.
He was just a noodle arm flopper that I'm being told he's like a scorer. He averages 18 a game for his career. I was like, I don't know. I didn't like that he flopped all the time. He whined at refs. I don't know. As a kid, I was watching him. I was like, if this guy played anywhere else, I wouldn't like him. Why do I have to like him just because he his chest says it says Indiana on his chest? So I just I'm not gonna lie and say that I enjoy cheering for this guy. I don't.
We don't cheer for laundry in the Titus household.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, as it pertains to the Pacers, which by the way, in Indiana, the pro basketball wasn't like.
I was gonna say
it's like the tiering of pro basketball is.
What's
like,
it go? It goes Hoosiers. Would you say
minor
league
college?
baseball?
It goes college. Your college basketball team, your high school basketball team, your college basketball team's recruiting.
The CYO team might feed into the high school.
The local AAU team, and then the Pacers probably. Pacers. But anyway, this team has pulled me back in. I was very invested, and they ripped my hearts out, and that was the most painful Pacers loss. But long series, and we'll see. We'll see. Now the Celtics are up 2-0, as we said, won by 1,000 Game 2, but
must win Game 3 now, right?
We're heading back to Indy Game 3. You're getting Game 3. It will be at Saturday night, right? Saturday night before the Indy 500 is Game 3 in Indy.
Is that
in Indy?
Question. I'm just an Ohio boy. Is that a pro or a con? Are we focused? Like, are we just continuing the party, or is it we're focused on this? We don't have time for that.
It's a pro. It's everyone's foaming at the mouth. The city is like the last time the Pacers were in this spot was 2014, and it was the same deal. I think there was a game. Maybe that was a road game. I don't know. I have like a vague memory of a game before the Indy 500 has happened before. Or maybe the night. Yeah, it was fucking crazy.
Fuck it.
Downtown is
the Pacers
bonkers.
have never lost
a
home game.
No, the
Indiana
Pacers
500
do not lose on Indy 500 weekend. It won't happen. So yeah, that's the Pacers. Carlisle was he took the blame, but Halliburton came away from Game 1. I was like, we proved that we can play with them, so that's good. The messaging is good. I just wonder internally. I wonder. after all the press conferences were done, after all the locker room rah-rah, we'll be all right, chin up, boys, we got this, and everyone dispersed back home or back to their hotel rooms,
then
I should say.
Internally, what happened?
And then the door shuts to the hotel room, and you're in your hotel by yourself.
Fuck.
All those guys are just like,
we pissed that one
dude.
away.
Yeah, I think they are. The Timberwolves, though, the Timberwolves and the Mavs, I want to talk to you about there's two things from game one that stood out to me that I want to talk to you about. Number one, Kyrie Irving. Now, you are a guy who knows Kyrie Irving well.
Too well, yeah.
Having played for the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's the one time he won an NBA championship.
Until he chose to leave a LeBron James Cavaliers team that was ready to win a championship.
That's right.
So that's a little foreshadowing for my thoughts on Kyrie Irving.
That's why I wanted to talk to you, because as Kyrie Irving last night in the first half is going off, it felt like the general public sentiment towards Kyrie Irving, a man who has been just dragged through the mud like crazy. A lot of it deserved.
Well-deserved.
A lot of it well-deserved.
Hard-earned.
Not saying it was undeserved whatsoever. I'm just saying that is who Kyrie Irving has been. On the court, off the court, all of it. He's
an absolute circus at all times.
Yes. But I noticed something last night as Kyrie is going off. It's like basketball fans were like, fuck it. I'm just gonna say it. Dude. I kind of like Kyrie.
I know.
I gotta be honest. I love watching this dude play.
I know.
And it felt like one after another where people are just getting the courage almost. It's
now,
like,
am I allowed to? It?
Oh, he said it? Okay, well, fuck it. Yeah, I'm going to say it too then. Yeah. Kyrie, dude, as far as like watching guys play basketball, he's like one of my top 10 favorite players to watch play basketball.
But it was easy because he was such a douchebag and such like a loser that it was like, and that's just no offense.
That's no offense. No.
But it was easy to pick at him because of that thing. When he's changed, has he grown as a person? Is he different or is he? Did he?
Did you shut?
Did he
shut up and dribble?
Dude,
no, I was talking to Brandon about that. It's like I genuinely have no idea what Kyrie has done off the court in the last year and a half.
And that's a good thing.
Which is probably a good thing for Kyrie, because it is like, I mean, people will get upset and be like, no, these guys, I mean, I say have whatever stances you want to have on whatever. Like, I don't fuck all that. Like, I'm too stupid to suss through and pretend like I give that much of a shit. But I will say it does help as a consumer of whatever you have going on. If you are limiting what I'm consuming and all I really see is like you balling out, I'm gonna be like, dude, that guy's fucking awesome. Yeah, correct. But if you ball out and in the post-game press conference, you're like, I read this book that Amazon doesn't want to publish. You guys should check it out too.
No, yesterday did you
some questionable shit in it?
Did you stay tuned for Inside the NBA last night when he went on and they talked about Ant's comments for him being like, he's sitting at home on his couch, he sees that, like it's like, dude, do that, and you're gonna be one of the top 5 most popular players in the league.
Right.
No one cares about your thoughts on the Earth. Or
the flat Earth type bullshit. So I don't know what made him do this. I don't know I don't know how we got here, but I that's what I realized last night watching Kyrie Irving going off in the first half. I was like, not only am I enjoying this, but it feels like the discourse around Kyrie has just on the snap of a finger has changed. And not just like the off the court stuff. The on the court stuff, Tate, when they traded for him.
This was
when they signed him, everyone was like, this is a terrible idea for the Mavericks.
What they did last night, and it's crazy to say, but like if you pinpointed the trajectory of Kyrie Irving, people hate him, last night changed everything.
Yeah.
They love him now, and people are saying, wait, this is the exact reason why the Mavericks made this trade. Because in the first half, Kyrie got to do it. And then it was a perfect – were you a track runner back in the day? You ever run track?
I did in like 7th grade, I think.
The handoff of the baton.
Oh, yeah. I was on the 4x1 team.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Kyrie Irving, did he not hand off the baton to Luka Doncic in the second half?
Can I stop you right there?
Yeah.
Did I need to have track experience to know the phrase
to make sure,
handing of the baton? Is that important for my understanding of that
I don't
metaphor?
Want to dumb it down, but like when I think Indiana racing, I think in cars. Okay. When I think in Ohio racing, I think on the track.
What if I would have said no, I never ran track?
Then I would have got out the clipboard.
You'd be like, fuck, well, I guess I can't use the passing of the baton.
So they got this thing in the baton. My point being, Titus, is that last night, Kyrie was able to do it until it was turn for Luka to do it.
Yeah.
And what Kyrie did on offense to tire down Ant ended up being the whole fucking.
That was kind of the thing.
The
yeah,
game.
that was the theme.
Everyone looks like
a
a genius. Jason Kidd looks like a genius last night.
Yeah, and Anthony Edwards shot 12 threes. He shot 16 times, 12 of them were from the 3-point line because he was just kind of just shooting bailout threes, tired threes. He said afterwards, he's like, I got to get downhill more. I got to do more. It's like, well, why couldn't you? Because you had to chase around fucking Kyrie Irving all day. Yeah, Kyrie has. Bryson DeChambeau's done it too. If you would have gone back in 2021, 2020, and told sports fans that in a handful of years, everybody will love Kyrie Irving and Bryson DeChambeau.
That's crazy, but it's the truth right now.
It's the truth. Yeah.
All in one weekend.
I guess that's kind of inspiring. Is nobody's.
If you can change,
yeah,
and I can change.
We don't give up, but I think people do like to tear people down, but then the second they get torn down, you do like to help them back up and pretend like you didn't tear them down. I did that with Rick Pitino.
That was your move?
I did that with Rick Pitino. Yeah, when Rick Pitino got fired, I was like, ha ha!
But now he's back, and you're like, they were all a little too tough on him.
Yeah, I went 1 year without Rick Pitino, and I was like, I will never forgive the media for what they did to this man.
Can't believe the way they talked about
the way they treated him. And everyone's like, Titus, that was you, dude. You were driving that bus. And I was like, was I? Was I driving that bus?
Point being, though, if Kyrie's going to play like that, was everyone wrong? Are the Mavs now like the Wolves can't guard the Mavs?
Yeah, I think it becomes interesting when you realize how deep and athletic the Mavs are, how they kind of have an answer for anything. Like whatever style the game becomes, if you want to slow it down, grind it out, they have ISO guys. I mean, that's what Luka can do.
Luka,
yeah, he can play hero ball and like milk the shot clock and just, if that's what the game entails. They move the ball around well though. They're throwing lobs to like everybody. They have the difference to me between the reason I'm worried about the Timberwolves offense especially is because against the Nuggets play great defense, but they don't have – theirs is more of like a schematic thing. Theirs is more like Gordon and KCP can guard guys, but like what's made them good is they're kind of all on the same page and their rotations are good and all that sort of thing. But they don't really they don't have rim protection. They don't have guys that are other than Aaron Gordon under certain circumstances. They don't have guys who are physically going to overwhelm you and swallow you alive. The Mavericks have that. Correct. The Mavericks have that with Gafford and Lively and Derrick Jones. And
the Mavericks are able to guard
PJ Washington.
The Wolves.
Yeah, and they have dudes they have length and athleticism and size and rim protection and then on the offense they can throw lobs and they can hit threes and they didn't even make threes in game one. And
if you're I always like to think like what are the coaches thinking after that first one? The Mavs are thinking that they stole game one. Yeah. And shot 6 of 25 from three. Like they got to be feeling good. I think the Mavs can guard the T-Wolves. I don't think the T-Wolves can guard the Mavs.
I think they can. They just didn't for some reason.
They did not.
They just chose not to for some reason. I don't understand. And I guess that brings me to the second point I wanted to talk to you about. Drop coverage. So number one, we can do like a hyper-focused discussion about game one and Rudy Gobert playing drop coverage on ball screens, specifically when Luka was coming off of ball screens in the second half. And Mike Conley in the post-game press conference is saying that wasn't the plan. I don't know why he did that. He didn't really throw Rudy under the bus.
You might want to text Mike on that one.
Yeah, was he throwing Rudy under the bus?
He was throwing he might have thrown the whole damn team under the bus.
Like he's teammate of the year. Mike Conley wouldn't just throw someone under the bus.
They ran drop coverage 90% of the game.
90% of the time.
And he's like, we weren't running no drop coverage. That wasn't the game plan.
Maybe Mike is dumb and didn't realize they were running drop coverage. No, maybe Mike got the assignment wrong.
Nope. Where's the pro Mike Conley podcast?
No, dude, we are. I'm as pro Mike Conley as it gets. But so we can talk about that. I want to first have a broader discussion about drop coverage in general because
you gonna pull out the clipboard here?
You're a basketball coach, right?
Yep. High school.
You're a lifelong basketball player. Now the game evolves. No question about that. The game that I was taught 20 years ago is not the same game that certainly the NBA players are playing. That is not, certainly at the NBA.
Breaking news.
Completely different game, right?
Uh-huh.
However, I will say that the idea that we live in a world where a viable defensive strategy for a guy who is guarding a ball screen, as a guard comes off a screen and I'm guarding the guy who is setting the screen, a viable defensive strategy is I'm going to retreat. I'm going to back up to the rim.
You're guarding the screener.
Yeah.
You're going to drop.
I'm going to drop all the way back to the rim. And what I'm going to do by doing so is give the guy coming off the screen all the room in the world to do whatever he wants. This became like a thing in the NBA, and I sort of understand why, because my understanding of it is you are baiting offensive teams into shooting mid-range shots, and especially if you have a guy like Rudy Gobert, who's such a freak athlete and so long, he plays drop coverage. If you want to shoot the pull-up from like the elbow, say, I'm going to challenge as you're shooting. I'm not going to block it more often than not, but I'm going to challenge it. Now what has happened is I have baited you into shooting a challenged mid-range shot, which is the worst shot in basketball. And I think like this became in vogue. This became like a viable thing. And now you see guys, I'm just speaking from my experience. If I played one possession in college at Ohio State, if there was one ball screen, now I'm not Rudy Gobert. I'm not 7'2" with long
protector,
arm.
right?
So never mind me. If Greg Oden would have done this, if Greg Oden would have,
how would that have felt about that?
There's a ball screen at the top of the key, and Greg Oden is like retreating back to that's how he's guarding the ball screen. I think we would have called a timeout and motherfuck Greg the entire timeout. And again, I understand the game has evolved, all that sort of thing. That is an old man thing that I am having trouble with. And it was like, it was music to my ears listening to Stan Van Gundy losing his fucking mind, just yelling like, why are they continuing the drop coverage? Why? Because that's exactly what I was saying on TV, which is like, yeah, let them start out the game doing it that way, because you do want to limit the rolls to the basket, you do want to limit like the lobs, and you do want to like stay attached to shooter. There's a lot of things that go into it, because like if you play up on them, now you're opening up all sorts of other stuff. But at a certain point, when Luka Doncic is coming off a ball screen and he's got no resistance and he's got his primary defender trying to catch up and he's on his hip and he's leaning into him, creating space, and then now Rudy comes to challenge the shot and he throws a wraparound bounce pass, and like he's just having his way, I'm going crazy, just like do something else.
The problem is I have no problem with them trying it. So the general thought is that when you drop, you're protecting the rim, and then you want the guy going over the screen trying to at least get a back contest on a mid-range. The biggest problem is the two people that it's hardest to do on, and probably the entire NBA, is Kyrie and
Luka.
So they can score from all three levels. So, and then you got to cheat up a little bit because they can score in that mid-range. Well, then they're just lobbing and lobbing and lobbing. I have no problem with starting in it. Where is the adjustment when all night it isn't working?
Yeah.
So, but the other thing is, what are you going to do? Are you going to straight up switch and have Rudy guard Luka? Well, he's going to go right around him.
Yeah.
Are you going to try and blitz the ball screens, and then, who I want passing out of a blitz ball screen?
Yeah.
Kyrie and Luka.
Luka, yeah.
I'm not saying there's an answer, but the answer is not maybe they've torched us 10 straight times doing this for the entire game. Can they keep it up?
I go 1-3-1 zone, and I trap him in the corner. I'd funnel the ball to the corners and then trap him and roast.
Good adjustment.
Yeah, that's what I would do if I was coaching third grade basketball. No, you're right. Like that's the hard thing about watching the NBA and then trying to talk about the defense and the people that are out there that still love Rudy Gobert, which like I don't have the energy to do it again, but it is interesting to me that the guy is like, he's being sold to me as a generational defensive talent, and every single time I watch a playoff series, it's not that he's giving up points. It's that the other team is specifically attacking
going at him at the defensive.
In the same way that you would go at me if we were playing. If I'm at Ohio State basketball practice and I'm on the floor and they're all like, "All right, clear out." I'm
Mouse
going at
in the house.
Yeah,
we got it.
Like, and I'm like, everything that I've been taught about this game says if you are every time down the floor saying, let's attack that guy, then that guy probably sucks at defense.
Correct.
And now you're telling me that guy is actually not only the best defender in the league, he's like one of the best defenders of all time. And this happens series after series after series after series with this guy. Anyway, I digress.
Are they going to play this? Is it possible to have to force them to take out the defensive player of the year? Because if at some point I think you have to try and switch.
This is what I would say, because I do think like there are people that will that are listening to me talk about this and they're losing their minds because like you don't get what Rudy brings to the table, and like
when you take him out,
it's opening up all the and that is true. So it can be frustrating talking about what to do defensively in the NBA, because it ultimately just boils down to the other guys. The guys you're trying to guard are good as fuck.
Correct.
And there's no real answer. My frustration, and you seem to agree, is you're trying something. It's not fucking working. Let's try something different, Tate. Let's try something different. And that's why I love Stan Van Gundy, because he'll
tell you
he's got that old school thing in him that I do too, which is like something's in vogue, and drop coverage is kind of in vogue. Like it's like were people playing drop coverage on ball screens like 10 years ago? Not fucking really. And if they were, it was laziness.
Correct. Yeah,
it was just laziness. It was like guys
get
like
your ass up there. Well, that is
the guys that don't want to hedge ball screens are like, I'm just gonna chill back here and be lazy about
Coach, this is called drop coverage. In 10 years, I was an innovator.
Coach,
all right. No, I don't know. What adjustment are you going to make going into game 2? Because they can't play that again, partially because they got torched, but partially because the whole world will be like, Coach, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I mean, they got to stay more connected. I don't know. Get up in them and pressure and make them make plays.
Switch up defenses. I don't know.
Yeah.
The other thing you talk about switching, I had that same moment. I don't know if it was maybe not 10 years ago, but seven-ish years ago when I would watch like the Warriors with Draymond. Maybe it was about 10 years ago. I don't know. They started – I don't know if they were the team that specifically started it, but they were the first team that I noticed because Draymond's such like a Swiss Army knife defensively that they would just switch every screen.
If you can switch 1 through 5.
They're switching 1 through 5.
Love it.
And I had the same – I don't know if epiphany is the right word, but just the same like, goddamn, I'm old and like the game has changed because I also remember thinking like if you're playing basketball and you just yell switch at every screen that's being set, you're lazy as fuck.
Yeah, coach
that's
hates
as
you.
lazy as
right.
it gets.
And now it's like the 73-win Warriors are like, no, what you're going to want to do is switch every ball screen.
That's why when you play pickup basketball, there's ball screens. All of us just yell switch because we don't want to fight over this shit. We're just like, yeah, fuck it, switch it.
So the NBA became what you would see in a Sunday morning old man's league.
It's kind of reverted back to the old man's league.
It has.
And these are the best players in the world. So, anyway, I wonder if the miscommunication too. I was thinking about this. You're a coach. You're gonna have to explain this to me. Chris Finch blows out his knee. He's on crutches for the Timberwolves. Now it obviously wasn't much of a problem against the Nuggets, but how much is that going to be a problem when you got Mike and Nori running? He's kind of the head coach, but he's not really the head coach. But he's, maybe there's some crossing of wires going on there. That Chris Finch is the head man,
but not the acting.
But he's not the acting head man. But he's also sitting right there.
Yeah, that's tough to do.
And Mike Nori's the one pacing the sideline.
I will say, like, I get like all jokes aside, if there's not a leader, if there's not one voice who's making the calls, that's bad.
Yeah, we saw it with Michigan basketball with Juwan Howard and Bill Martelli.
You saw it with the Lakers. you got LeBron and Frank Vogel trying to make the calls.
Last thing I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark. You're a women's basketball guy. You're a girls basketball guy.
Am I ever going to shed that label?
No.
Well, I coach high school basketball.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
I do like being like the resident, like, oh, let's talk Caitlin Clark. I also do watch the men's game.
Well, I would bring it. Oh, never mind. I'm not going to say that.
No, Titus.
I'm not
going
to say that. It was a joke at others' expenses. That aren't here, and
it's not good to talk about behind people's back.
So
very big of you.
Anyway, Caitlin Clark is in the W. Have the Fever won yet? Have we won a game? We were 0-4 last I checked.
We lost again last night.
Did we lose again last night? Is it 0-5 now? Are the Fever?
Yeah, we lost by 2 last night. We're 0-5. Lost by 2. We were up 2 going into the 4th. Does Caitlin Clark not have the clutch gene?
Yeah, she might not.
Wow.
She might not. But there is the Caitlin Clark discourse, if you want to call it that, has now gotten to the point where it feels like the league, which is not the suits in the corporate office. I mean, like the players and coaches.
Can I say something real quick? Go ahead. I need you to start referring, instead of saying the league, the new hot trend, the W.
The W, okay.
So the W.
The W, and I don't mean the people in the boardroom. I mean the people in the locker rooms.
The
and
players.
The players.
Yep.
Are rejecting Caitlin Clark, and they've had it. We saw a little bit of this as she was going on the Final Four run, the run to the national championship game. The old legends are, Diana Taurasi was probably the most famous example, just saying she's gonna have a hard
multiple times, double down.
But now that she's gotten into the W, it's continued. It feels like the people that love Caitlin Clark are like, be easy on her. What are you guys are fucking morons. She's giving you guys chartered flights. She's created interest in she's already. I saw a stat the other day. Caitlin Clark has already played more games on ESPN or ABC. Or I think it was ABC than Paolo Banchero has in his NBA
I love that stat. I didn't see that one coming. No, I mean, but you're right. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, where do we land on this? Because that seems to be whatever. Like the people that love Caitlin Clark are like shitting on those people. I'm kind of like, I agree with that, but also they're competitors, and like, what do you want them to do? Just like bow down and kiss her ass and kiss her feet, and like, I don't know. It's all like an interesting dynamic that's going on in that league, because I think every rookie that has hype in any sports league that comes into the league, there is going to be
and
a
all
veteran.
the vets are going to say there's a learning curve.
There's a learning curve.
This is the best 12 teams in the world. So I get where they're coming from with there's going to be a learning curve. It's not going to be as easy. Also, and correct me if I can't say this, Charles Barkley might be the only person on earth that can start a saying with those women.
Yeah,
I'm about to do.
Yeah.
Am I wrong, or have those women for the last decade not been whining and complaining about not having private flights or the attendance or the interest in the league?
Yeah.
And this one little girl from Iowa has just come in. She walked through the airport, Titus, one time. And the next day they announced a 2-year deal, $25 million. We're going to charter flights.
Yeah.
They talk about the interest in the league. Her preseason game had 2 times as many fans as the highest attended Fever game last year.
Yeah.
Why are we so upset with Caitlin Clark?
Yeah. I know. But then the only thing I don't even know where I fall on it. That's why I guess I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah.
I wanted you to tell me how to feel about it. The only thing is like, and I've tried to say this to Brandon too, is I do think it would be hard to rewire your brain if you are another. I don't want to name names because I'm not keeping tabs on like which players are being shitty to her and which ones.
So Taurasi's been the biggest one.
Let's just say Taurasi. If you're Diana Taurasi, to get that good at basketball, you have to spend your entire life, every time you step on a basketball court, you are there to kill the other person across from you. You have to grind. And I mean, she has put in just as much work as any NBA, as in Michael Jordan, as in Kobe Bryant. Like name like the hard workers that played men's basketball. She has done that herself, and that's how she got to this level. To ask someone like her to then be put in a position where we need you to lose that edge, and actually this other girl is going to be on a different team, and I want you to be warm and accommodating to her
a little bit,
and coddle her and like bow down to her and kiss her feet and thank her. And you know what you need to do when you meet her? I want you to thank her so much for all she's done for the game. I can sort of understand why she would be like, the fuck you? Mm-hmm. But having said that, you're exactly right. Like the interest, the whole reason that people care about what these people's thoughts are on Caitlin Clark, on really anything related to women's basketball, is kind of because women's basketball has been pulled up by this era that we're in right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'll tell you how to feel on this, Titus. The way to feel is that when you are on the court, yes, you want to go at the rook. Like you want to go at the girl that everyone says, because Diana Taurasi, best to ever do it, right? Did the same. Obviously didn't play the same way. Very successful in college. Very successful in the pros. And all of a sudden you're acting like this girl who's got to be like 22, 23 years old is going to come in and run the league on day one. No, she's not, and I'm going to show you exactly why. It is okay to be excited that the Fever are 0-5 and that she didn't play well, blah, blah. The problem I have is in the outside and off the court conversations.
Yeah, you don't need to do all that, yeah.
How in the world do you not say anything other than this is great for the league and we're so excited to have it?
And the people that are, like they're journalists that are like, why did it take Caitlin Clark to get this league? And it's like, just shut the fuck up.
That's
and be happy
where
that the league is popping off.
Yeah.
Like just like shut the fuck up. And
so
be
we
that, like,
wanted it. We wanted it.
Now
it's now happening. What do these people want?
Yeah,
do they want it to go back and be like, it's going to take more than one?
I think
person.
all that's stupid. I just, like when LeBron entered the league and you asked Michael Jordan, hey, what do you think about that? Hey, you see this guy out of Akron? That's he's pretty fun, right? Michael Jordan's like, shut the fuck up, dude. And I just think that's like how a competitor should be wired. But you're right, like off the court, you should have a little more perspective. But it's an interesting dynamic because as the Fever continue to lose games, I am interested to see how that's gonna.
At what
we got to
point,
figure it out. We got to figure it out. We got to get one. But yeah, I mean, if the Fever are 0-12 and Caitlin Clark is still playing on ABC, and like if you want to watch the two teams that are the two best in the league, you got to buy this package.
Get the WNBA package.
package. I mean, there's got to be some head scratching going on where they're like,
That's fair. That's very fair.
What are we doing?
I
It's
could
a
see
league
where the
here.
animosity would come from that.
Yeah.
But just the general interest in the league, even the fact that we're having this conversation right now.
No, this is a good thing.
Is a good thing for the league.
I said that about Caitlin Clark when this past tournament run, because the hatred was starting to come out then. I was like, this is the best thing that can happen to women's basketball, because you're actually finally treating women's basketball like it's just basketball. Like you said earlier, you're like, I wasn't a women's basketball coach, I was a basketball coach. We are now having discussions about women's basketball like we would men's basketball. And people don't have whether I agree with them or not, I love that people just want to point at Caitlin Clark and say fraud. Because because for the longest time you couldn't just do that.
Correct.
You can't tear down. Like, why are you
It's the same
punching
thing
down
last
and all
night.
that?
They talked about it on Inside the NBA. Charles Barkley this isn't ESPN where, hey, we're going to lead off with WNBA highlights. We're going to do this. This is Charles Barkley last night choosing to talk about the petty women in the WNBA and going on a rant. And then and you can have whatever side you want. There's some people that are like, how could he say that about women? He's talking about it.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Exactly. All right, I think we're good. That was good. We got to get the Fever a win. We got to figure out we got to get the Pacers a win. Mm-hmm. We got to get the Indy 500 win. I'm about to talk to Spider about racing. It's a big weekend in racing. I'm so excited to have Spider in here to talk about it. But, it went from, like, last week it was setting up to be an all-time time. I don't know if you can say time like that. To be an Indy sports fan. We got Caitlin Clark starting her WNBA career. We got the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals. We got the Indy 500. Now the Fever can't win a game. The Pacers are choking game 1.
But we still got the 500.
We don't, though. There's weather issues.
Is that true?
Yeah, there's rain in the forecast,
no.
Tate. So I'm going to talk to Spider about it. We're going to talk to Spider about it. But we need some good vibes, and hopefully Spider can bring them. Let's talk to him. Before we get to Spider, I want to talk about Rhoback Activewear. You all know how much we love Rhoback. It's summer, and we are living in Rhoback. Chicago summers can get toasty, but Rhoback keeps us comfortable through it all. You can count on seeing all of us here at Barstool at the beach or on a boat rocking the new Rhoback swim trunks. I'm literally wearing these right now, by the way. I'm going to stand up for the viewers. Let me. They're hiking up on me a little bit because I'm shifting around in my seat, but now that I'm check these out. Check these Rhoback. Check these swim trunks out. Give me a full taste right there. Wearing the Rhoback swim trunks. They are the best swim trunks on the market. They have a built-in boxer brief liner that is so comfortable. Second, the Rhoback everyday shorts are unmatched. There are no shorts on the market quite like them. You can wear a polo untucked with them for a clean look, or put on a tee and go play pickleball, enjoy a long walk, or wear them out and about. Finally, Rhoback polos are the only polos we wear. The collar is crisp, the fabric is moisture-wicking for these hot summer days, and the designs are incredible. Rhoback makes the best stuff. If Rhoback has its logo on it, it is worth buying. I promise you that. So use code SPORTS on Rhoback.com for a generous 20% off for all new customers through the end of the week. RHOBACK.com, 20% off all polos, shorts, and swim trunks with code SPORTS, Rhoback.com. Here's Spider. All right, Spider is here. We did this last year on the show.
Yes, sir.
Heading into Memorial Day weekend. Sunday is the biggest day in racing, no matter what discipline of racing you're into. If you're a Formula One person, they got Monaco. If you're an IndyCar person, it's the Indy 500. If you're a NASCAR person, the Coca-Cola 600, which is not obviously the Daytona 500 is the biggest. Coca-Cola 600 though it's the longest, certainly.
It's the longest, and it's probably one of the most prestigious wins you could have in your.
It's like top 5 on the circuit,
I would
right?
think so.
Yeah,
I would think so.
It's a huge deal. So yeah, we did this last year. I had so much fun, dude. That was, as I thought back on my first year at Barstool, that was like one of the shows I just kept coming back to, where I was like, I love just talking racing with Spider.
I love it. That's very flattering, Titus. As do I. That was a great show, and it's very rare. Luckily, check out Rubbin' Is Racing, where Large and I talk NASCAR once a week, but that's really the only time I do talk racing. So a lot of times I'm longing for someone in my life.
Someone else to, because we both have niche interests, where I'm the same way with college basketball, where suddenly someone at this company shows an interest in college basketball that I didn't think really cared that much. I'm like, this is awesome.
I got another guy.
So yeah, last year was a ton of fun, and last year I remember specifically talking to you at length about the double duty, the idea on Sunday of a a driver driving in the Indianapolis 500, getting in a helicopter, flying in the helicopter to the airport to then get on a private plane to go to North Carolina to then get in a helicopter and go to the NASCAR race and do the Coca-Cola 600. It was something that I remember happening, I wouldn't say a lot in my youth, but it was like familiar to me because Johnny Andretti did it, I think, in 94. I think he was the first one to ever do it in the same day because they used to run him like – you used to be able to do both races and they weren't on the same day, so guys would do both. But in 94, he was the first one who's like, I'm going to do both on one day. Then Tony Stewart did it in the late 90s. I think he did it in the early 2000s. Robbie Gordon was doing it. Kurt Busch did it one year. So it's something that's kind of been familiar, but it's been 10 years since someone did it. And I remember last year you were like, I'm excited for next year, which is now here.
Yep.
Kyle Larson running in the Indianapolis 500 and running in the Coca-Cola 600. Now, I want to spend a lot of time talking about this because I think you'll agree with me. This is kind of fucking insane that a guy is doing this.
It's completely insane.
It's kind of insane that he's doing this.
I mean, he's like arguably the best NASCAR driver, and he's already kind of got that figured out. And then he's like, you know what? Let me add something else onto my plate. It seems like it's going to be kind of, challenging for him to get between these places, especially with rain and maybe presidential candidates on the attendance list. It could be a headache for him to get there. But
him being the best NASCAR driver, I think, is why it stands out to me so much. Now, Tony Stewart was really good. Tony Stewart's one of those guys, and Larson's certainly that way, and a lot of the best drivers are that way, where you could just, if it has four wheels and a motor, they can drive it. They can figure out anything. But I don't think, my memory might be wrong, but I don't think Tony Stewart was like on that level when he tried to pull the double. Now, he did have good results, and he was a hell of a driver. Kyle Larson, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, he's like the guy in NASCAR.
He's like in his prime right now. Granted, it's been a year since he's won his championship, but he's 2 years, excuse me. But he's one of the best drivers year after year. I mean, Kyle Larson is probably the class of the field. Granted, he has great equipment in the Hendrick Motorsports team. He's in one of the best cars in NASCAR. But I think in terms of raw talent, he is at the top of the list too, and that's evident by him going and racing in all these different series, whether it be sprint car or dirt racing, whatever it is. And now the most recent challenge is IndyCar, which is insane. He looked so fast in qualifying, and back to the whole NASCAR fan in me. If you could tell me, pick one guy from NASCAR Cup Series to do double duty, it would probably be Kyle Larson definitively, 9 times out of 10. So I think this is a dream come true for race fans this weekend. Obviously, year after year, this is always one of the best days in motorsports, but I think there's an extra layer this year for why it's going to be special.
I'd have to think back on the Tony Stewart. When did he? I should have looked this up before the show. He did it in 2001, I want to say. I think he did it in 2001, and I think he had success in both of them. But I don't remember having the belief. Maybe we did at one point, but anyway, even if that's true, even if the 1 year Tony Stewart did it, I thought this. It's been a long time. It's been over 20 years since I have gone into this Sunday believing that one of the guys pulling the double duty could actually I could envision him winning both.
I absolutely can. So can the sports books. If you look on DraftKings right now,
that's what's crazy to me.
He's plus 700 to win the Indy 500, and he's plus 450 to win the Coke 600.
That's why I think I'm so excited, because this isn't like a novelty thing. This isn't like Fernando Alonso is a Formula One guy, and every so often the Indy 500, Jimmy Johnson ran an Indy 500.
Yeah.
Fernando Alonso is a great Formula One driver. He tried the Indy 500. He had one good run. I think his engine blew out. The other times he wasn't really much of a factor. There was a little bit of hype for those guys, and it was like, let's see how good they can be. I think Kyle Larson, number one, he is running another race that night, so that makes it super interesting. But number two, he is a guy from a different discipline stepping in, and there is a very, very sincere belief that he can win this. The Indy 500 I'm talking about. Of course he can win the Coca-Cola 600.
Right.
That wouldn't be a shock at all. But for him to qualify fifth, to be as fast as he was in qualifying, I watched his whole qualifying, and he was like a natural. Like, you wouldn't believe that was his first time getting behind an Indy car. I'm so fired up about it, and it's going to be really hard for me to not cheer for him, especially when I know you're the NASCAR guy, so I don't know how much you know about what's going on in IndyCar right now.
I heard there's a lot of drama with Team Penske.
Team Penske.
So they were using basically what I understand as like DRS essentially on a track where you're not allowed to.
Yeah, they basically you can only use it under certain circumstances, and they had their cars programmed to just basically. It was the push to pass is what they call it, and
push to pass. That's
you
what
only
it was.
you only get so much push to pass in a race, and their cars had unlimited push to pass. And when they got caught, there's a big time crossing of wires of like we didn't know, and then like other guys on the team.
I saw the statement, and they were like, they pretty much admitted guilt, but were like. They rode the middle as much as you could.
Joseph Newgarden, who won the Indy 500 last year, is starting third this year. He said that he was pushing the button out of habit, and like he just kept pushing it. It kept working. I couldn't believe it. It was cool, And he's like, I didn't know. I was just pushing. Will Power, who is also on Team Penske, he's starting second in this year's Indy 500. He said that he did not put and I guess they have the data to prove it. Like he did not partake in the. He was only pushing it when he was allowed to push it, which of undermines the other guy's argument.
Right.
Because it's like, if he knew better,
why
then
it should have been
know
consistent
better?
Across the team.
So they have that going on. But so in qualifying, only the second time in the history of the race, the first three, the Indy 500 is rows of three for qualifying. The entire first row is all Team Penske. And Roger Penske owns the track, owns the series, and owns the team that is starting at the top three. And earlier this year was caught cheating.
Yeah.
So there's
is that why a lot of people are saying that like IndyCar should be sold or like yeah.
It's a
conflict of interest.
Obvious conflict of interest.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, as a NASCAR guy, I wouldn't mind seeing NASCAR come in and add that to their portfolio. Dude. But yeah, I mean, a lot to be excited for this weekend. Even F1. I'm not much of an F1 guy, but if there's one race that I think is ideal and that I want to check out, it's Monaco.
I love the visuals of Monaco.
Same.
If nothing else, that looks awesome.
Same.
Yeah, the race itself isn't the best, but
yeah,
I'll go back. I'll watch Monaco this later in the week. Like on the Wednesday, I might pull it up on the DVR and watch the actual race. And every time I do, I'm like, yeah, the race kind of sucked. But the visual's cool.
It's like an appetizer at a steakhouse. It's like there's better food coming.
Right.
Just deal with F1 for now. The good racing's coming.
So the double is in jeopardy this year. That's part of the discussions going into the weekend. Is we all are very fired up to see Kyle Larson. I am on the record as I'm cheering for Kyle Larson in the Indy 500 because that's the reason I brought up the Penske thing too. Is I think there's an obvious villain and hero type story where it's like, if it's not Kyle Larson, maybe it's Alexander Rossi, maybe it's your guy
Santino Ferrucci. I'm behind big time this year, as I was last year. He's a Italian kid from Connecticut, as am I, and he's a big time racer. So yeah. I think he finished third last year.
Yeah, he ran really well last year.
And what's he qualify? He qualified sixth.
Yeah.
So I have a hard time understanding why he's 18-1 right now on DraftKings, but I'm going to check that out personally for myself and see what that's all about.
I think there's a feeling that like Penske's just going to dominate.
It's going to be a Penske parade at Roger Penske's track.
But but the feeling of the race is setting up to where it's like I think most of the people at the track, unless you're just like a Team Penske person, you're obviously cheering for someone else, and why not Kyle Larson? So like if Kyle Larson could like hang around during the race and he's in top 5, like running top 5 that place will go fucking bonkers if he takes the lead.
Yeah.
I mean the eruption, if he ever leads a lap in this race, is going to be crazy.
I remember watching a couple years back, and Connor Daly took the lead, and all of Indiana was on its feet, which is great. Connor Daly, I'm a fan of his as well, but I can't imagine what it would be like for Larson. Like you're right. I think we have the potential to watch some of the craziest history ever this weekend.
The problem though, Spider, is there might be rain in the forecast, and so what could happen is, if the way it stands right now, Kyle Larson basically it's like a surgical procedure of how quickly he has to get into the private jet to then get to North Carolina in time and everything. There's rain in the forecast that might bump the start of the Indy 500 back, like even if it's like a half an hour.
Yeah.
That jeopardizes the start of the Coca-Cola 600. And I'm worried that he's going to have to make a decision.
Yeah, that's a good question.
And then it's like, what decision do you make? Because you're a NASCAR guy, so you have to go to the NASCAR race. But then on the other hand, it's like you went to these great lengths for the Indy 500. This was like your one opportunity to do the Indy 500.
You may never get
You
that
may
chance
never get the
again.
chance again. Do you wait for the delay and do the Indy 500? I don't know what he's going to choose to do. I don't know what the right answer is. But there are discussions. The people are so excited about Kyle Larson doing the double that there are discussions. I don't think they're going to do anything about it. But IMS is being asked already. Like, have you guys considered moving up the start to accommodate Kyle Larson, basically? And they shouldn't. Like, rightfully, they're like,
well, did
like
you
we're
see
excited, but like
you saw what happened in NASCAR this past weekend?
No, what happened?
It was the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro, and Kyle Larson was
yeah,
flying in from
that's
Indy.
Right, yeah.
And the race was meant to start at 8:15 Eastern time, and NASCAR said, you know what, we're going to push it back 15 minutes and start it at 8:30. Now, I'm personally pro NASCAR for doing this. I appreciate them letting their drivers do something cool like double duty, because I think that funnels in a whole new audience, which is exactly what NASCAR needs. So good on them for moving the race 15 minutes. I know that was controversial, but I don't know that they can do that this week, Titus.
I know.
Because the Coke 600 is the longest NASCAR race to begin with. That thing's starting at 6 p.m. It might not be over till 11 p.m.
Right.
And these TV networks, especially with NASCAR coverage, not knocking them. I understand they have tight broadcasting, boxes they're into, but they're already rushing off the air as is. Who's to say they can delay the race 15 minutes to get Larson there again this week? I am highly concerned with the weather and even everything else going on. So hopefully it all works out for us, but I think Larson has been on the record saying that his main priority is winning another NASCAR Cup Series championship, which ultimately, I think, like you said, if there's a decision to be made, I think, unfortunately, it might be at the expense of the Indy 500.
So in the past, I think it was Robbie Gordon. If memory, I really should have. I had too much confidence in my memory. And I should have
touched up on this a little bit.
I think it was Robbie Gordon in the past. There was rain. Robbie Gordon had a handful of times he tried to pull double duty, and there was rain, I remember. And then he had that dilemma too. And in the past, on at least one occasion, there was rain that stopped the race. Like they ran, say, 50 laps. They have to stop the Indy 500, let the rain pass, then we'll dry the track and start it up. Yeah. And Robbie Gordon was like, well, if I stick around, I'm not going to be able to make the NASCAR race, so I'm out of here. And they had a replacement driver race the rest of the Indy 500. They don't allow that anymore. So if the part of the people that believe Kyle Larson might pick the Indy 500 are believing that because Tony Kanaan has apparently been like, I don't know what the term would be, reserve, like he's
preparing to be
the guy if
the last
Larson,
minute sub.
Yeah, the last minute sub. They, in the last couple days, have pulled Tony Kanaan from that role, and they've said, like, never mind Tony Kanaan, we don't need you for that.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
So some people are reading the tea leaves of that and saying that means Larson is committed to the Indy 500, and if he can make the NASCAR one, he'll go to the NASCAR one. But to your point, like, the guy is a full-time NASCAR driver trying to win another cup.
He could have just been saying that to save face, though, especially with the Tony Kanaan thing, which is highly interesting. I do want to say quick, on the NASCAR side, in Kyle Larson's absence, he's had Kevin Harvick, who retired at the end of last year, filling in for him with qualifying and practice sessions, which is really fucking cool. So to see two legends in their respective disciplines, each coming in to fill in, Tony Kanaan, who I love as an IndyCar guy, and then Kevin Harvick, who we unfortunately lost to retirement this past year, coming back to fill in for these guys has been a treat in itself. So
I'm so excited, man. I love that this happens, and I love that I love that both of them work well together. The NASCAR does seem excited about letting Kyle Larson do this.
Absolutely.
The IndyCar, the track is buzzing because of the Indy 500 has an elevated sense of importance when something like this is going on, and the same way it did when Fernando Alonso. I remember when he was racing when you bring the F1 guys. I mentioned Jimmy Johnson earlier, like having him involved. It just lifts everything, and that's the coolest thing to me is racing, bringing everybody together instead of siloing everybody.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I hope it all works out. The Coca-Cola 600 will be. Give me a preview of that. Like, what are we? So who's racing well right now? Is it Kyle Larson's top of the table?
So Hendrick and Joe Gibbs have pretty much been dominant as usual this year. They've won, I think, 8 races between them, if not more. So definitely those are the cars you want to watch out for. Is Kyle Larson, of course, depending on his travel, of course. Chase Elliott's his teammate. And then William Byron, a guy that I'm a big fan of this year, is probably a pretty good pick as well.
He's in the 24, right?
He's in the 24 as a Jeff Gordon guy. Mark's got the Rainbow Warrior drip on. He's been one of my favorite drivers this year. I have a championship future on him, and he seems to show up at all sorts of different tracks, whether it be plate racing or road courses or whatever. Any given week, William Byron's a good pick. And then on the other side of that, the Toyota, the Joe Gibbs Racing guys, Denny Hamlin's the favorite to win, the second favorite to win the race right now, I think. And the Toyotas always look strong. Martin Truex is a guy that's solid veteran, probably a good pick.
Yeah.
And then also the team that Denny Hamlin owns, 2311, Tyler Reddick is another guy to watch for this race, who has got a win so far this year, and he's been looking good. And team owner Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin have been putting a lot of effort into their team recently. In fact, this week, their new team shop, which Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin personally designed, is opening in Charlotte. I'm hoping to get down there this week.
That's
but
cool.
The team 2311 is Michael Jordan 23, Denny Hamlin 11.
Yeah.
Like the windows on the building are at like a 23-degree angle, and like they have custom merch that they're only selling at the shop. So and there's like the bathroom has like elephant print that you would find on Jordans on the wallpaper.
That's
like
awesome. Everything
looks really cool. So I'm been really bullish on what MJ and Denny have created with 2311 and what they're bringing to the sport. So
I think that probably plays into of course it does. I'm just an idiot like connecting dots. Like the Coca-Cola 600 is elevated by being in Charlotte, which is like the hub
backyard.
It is the hub of NASCAR.
Yeah,
that's where the Hall of Fame is. That's where all these teams are based. And the same can certainly be said about. I mean the league is literally called IndyCar. IndyCar.
Yeah.
So like of course the Indy 500 is
absolutely
the biggest race in IndyCar. Yeah, I don't know. Larson pulling off the double would be the coolest thing. Like if he wins both. Which
that would be, I mean,
if he wins both, which I get, it's like a pipe dream. Like, let's just finish both. But if he wins both, that would be one of the coolest athletic things I've ever seen in my life. Maybe the coolest.
We had Dale Jr. on last week on Rubbin' His Race, and I asked him like, what are reasonable expectations for Kyle Larson? And he said like, just finishing the race in itself is an accomplishment, but something along the lines of like a top 10 in both would be incredible. I think I'm going to take Kyle Larson for a top 5 in the Indy 500. And like I said, I have a little sprinkle on Santino Ferrucci. Who do you like to win the race? Obviously, we're going to both be pulling for Larson, but are there other guys that you're maybe long-term fans of? Or?
I have to put all of my chips on Larson from a fan perspective.
Same.
Because I go into every race cheering for the Hoosiers. This is my number one sports list wish list. My number one sports wish list, if that makes sense, of like things I would love. I would if I rub the bottle and a genie popped out, I was like, I can give you anything in the sports world to have happen. What do you want? My first thing would be I want to see a Hoosier win the Indy 500. It has not happened since the 40s. I was not alive for that, obviously. So like that would be the coolest fucking thing. Which is why when Connor Daly took the lead, the place is going crazy.
For sure.
We want to see a guy from Indiana win the thing. It's never happened in my lifetime. So I always cheer for Ed Carpenter and Connor Daly for that reason. It's like something I badly want to see. They're not doing so hot this year. Like it doesn't feel like they're gonna have the cars.
They're long. You got to scroll a long way.
And they've been
down.
good. Like Ed Carpenter, both of them have been in positions where it's like it feels plausible. It doesn't feel plausible this year.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you have like a guy like Scott Dixon, who's a legend of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but has only won one race somehow, which is like staggering. He's like it feels like he should have like 4 or 5 wins by now. I cheer for him a lot because I do think that he deserves to have. He always has something fuck up. I don't think he's in a great position like he usually is. He's usually like on the front row, and he's not. I don't think he has a great car this year.
How about my guy Helio Castroneves?
Yeah, I mean
Legend.
You can never count him out.
Yeah.
But it feels like the guys I usually cheer for are having a down year, while at the same time Penske is like building this Death Star of cheating and also having fast cars and so it's. I'm kind of bummed out by that part of it all, where it just feels a little inevitable that it's going to be Penske, which is why I hope Kyle Larson or Alexander Rossi. Those seem to be the two guys. I'm cheering for the second row, basically.
I like that.
Rossi, Ferrucci, and Kyle Larson.
Yeah, I got Larson and Ferrucci
because I think they have the best chance. But I don't know. In Indy 500 is crazy because it is. If you watch qualifying, the guys at the top 3 were so much faster, which is only like 1 mile an hour. But like in racing, that over 500 miles, like that's way faster. But it felt like there's a pretty sizable gap. But at the same time, the way that race works is like the best car doesn't always win. The best driver doesn't always win.
Right.
You just have to be good enough to be in the mix. And then they always say about the Indy 500, the track picks the winner. And then like the last like 10 laps, just crazy shit happens.
Yep.
It's not always crashes. Sometimes it's engines go out. Sometimes it's
the tire flying into the fucking grandstand, which hopefully doesn't happen
sometimes
this year.
Like guys are pushing it with their pit strategy and they're staying out on old tires and like they get a little loose and they're hitting walls and like it's just crazy shit happens. And it's not always like, it's not like a Formula 1 deal where it's like within 10 laps you can tell that this guy's got the car, this guy he's just gonna run away with it. So yeah, maybe I like Ferrucci and
hell yeah,
I like Larson, I like Rossi.
How many Indy 500s do you think you've been to? Do you know the number?
It's over 20.
Wow.
I would guess somewhere like 20, 25-ish probably. I'm 36. I haven't been to all of them in my lifetime.
That's pretty good retention rate. 36 years old, you've probably been you maybe missed like 10 tops.
I used to, because when I was a kid, we would go. We didn't go to all of them, but we would go. Yeah, if my dad got free tickets somehow, we would go. I'm trying to remember that, but like since I've been an adult, since I've controlled it, like since I've been like 16 years old basically, and I've had the ability to go on my own.
Yeah,
I've gone to just about everyone. Yeah,
I got to get back there. I went 1 year for qualifying session with Dave when we were doing. The Barstool 500 party in Indiana, which was awesome. Yeah. But I didn't really get the full IndyCar experience, so I got to get back there.
Oh, you'd be a legend there,
dude.
We
should check it out.
The people of Indy would love you.
Yeah, it seems it's a beautiful facility. The pagoda is incredible. I love the fact there's a golf course in the infield.
Let's go to the NASCAR races there. Do they still do 2 or they just do the 1?
They're doing 1.
Do they do the oval? No, they got rid of that.
I think the oval might be back this year. I think the oval might be back.
I would 100% go with you to that.
They should definitely bring it back if not. But yeah, I mean Indy's one of the most beautiful racing facilities.
I know. How are we going to pull that off? How are we going to do the double?
I looked it up.
Toying with the idea.
I priced it out. So I've got a couple quotes for private jets. If you looked it up on a one-way ticket, so theoretically we'd have to drive to Indiana. But if we were to get there, we could fly from Indiana to Concord, North Carolina for like 10 bands. Which, hear me out.
Okay.
8 people on that plane. What if I just found me, you, and like 6 other of the biggest race fans I could find, and then we split that? I would pay $1,200 to get for double duty on a private jet.
We could sell this.
That's what I'm saying. Or we could
sell this, dude, and we could like do a contest giveaway thing.
Yeah. So if there's any last minute sponsors,
like Stoolies, we could give a giveaway where it's. Yeah, you get some sort of fucking raffle where we raise money as a company for something.
I tried to get this in motion, but unfortunately I couldn't really
have enough time.
Iron it out. Yeah.
Next year maybe.
Yeah, we need Larson to run back. You know what? God forbid he can't do double duty this year. I'm hoping he can.
Back next year.
But if he can't, then we will make this come.
Do you think like
so?
If he has, do you think success, failure, anything? I guess Does Kyle Larson doing this year have any bearing on other guys doing this in the future, do we think?
I think it will just keep the inspiration there for people to want to do this in the future.
I would think so too.
Because think of it, it's been 10 years since
10 years, yeah.
And it was Tony Stewart?
Busch.
Kurt Busch, excuse me. So yeah, it's like, to me, what happens if it weren't Larson? If it's not Larson this week, I don't know who else from NASCAR does this. I know there's been some discussion about Kyle Busch wanting to do it, but even to Titus's point earlier, Kyle Busch is a shell of his former self. I feel like the time for him to do it was 5-10 years ago, not right now, as much as that pains me as a Kyle Busch fan to say. But I can't think of another guy in NASCAR that would be as much of a threat in both of these.
I was always so sad Jeff Gordon never tried it. I bet he said.
How about
Gordon's been at the? He's like working with Hendrick and everything, so he's been at in
well,
Indy.
He's on the chopper flying to and from, which I also thought was funny. Someone on Twitter pointed this out. Larson got in the chopper wearing his IndyCar fire suit, with Jeff Gordon, and he got out of it wearing his NASCAR Cup Series fire suit with Jeff Gordon. So at some point, the chopper became a changing room.
Jeff Gordon saw Kyle Larson's dick.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
At some point, he was hanging trout. He saw
he was dumping dong in the chopper. But yeah, okay, I have a question for you, Titus. If there's a guy that's predominantly, their first discipline is IndyCar driver.
Yeah.
That you'd like to see do double duty and wheel a NASCAR Cup Series car.
Oh.
Who are you picking from the field?
Oh, that's a great question. I just keep going back to Scott Dixon.
Yeah.
Scott Dixon feels like Dixon to me is like as legend it gets, but he's only won the one race, but like he might be past his prime too in terms of like the time for him to do it might have been like 5 years ago. But he's been the guy in IndyCar. To me, he's an absolute legend. And I would love to see him in other disciplines. Like because there have been guys that have done like Juan Pablo Montoya won the Indy 500 and then he got into NASCAR. Danica obviously. That's how Tony Stewart got his start was I guess he got to start with sprint cars, but then he made the switch over.
I got one more pick I got to add.
Yeah, I don't know who I would most let's see here. Pato O'Ward would be interesting. I would like
Connor Daly's driven in NASCAR before. I think
Connor Daly's tried NASCAR.
Cool.
Yeah, Colton Hurd is a guy who's like been flirting with Formula One for a while, and I like Colton Hurd a lot, but I also feel like he's still has a ton to prove before he's got. I got to see him win more in IndyCar before he starts.
I've become a big Helio Castroneves fan since he's raced in the SRX series, which is now defunct, but that was fun to watch the last couple years.
Oh yeah,
and he was a legend in that series. So. I became a fan of him quickly.
Connor Daly feels like he'd be great NASCAR just for the culture, the NASCAR culture.
Yeah.
He would fit in
He's
well.
He's a guy
with
that just gets it.
He gets the NASCAR culture.
Absolutely.
For sure, dude. He's awesome.
He's always welcome back in NASCAR. I love watching him compete with us.
All right, Spider. Thanks for doing this, man.
Thank you for having me. This is becoming one of my favorite traditions. We got
to do this every year, dude.
Yeah.
I got it because I fucking love it so much, man. I love the Indy 500. I love racing, and even if that's all it is, even if you just come on the show, and we just say we love racing 1,000 times. I don't know. I want people to get into it. And I want there's a lot going on. A lot of people have a lot of Memorial Day weekend plans, but if you're someone that's home, park your ass on the couch, dude, and watch racing all day, including Monaco. We gotta figure out who the Formula One person is in the office and get them into the fold. So we can have a true three-way discussion for the
three-headed dragon.
The big three.
Yeah.
Should we try the triple one year? Go to Monaco.
Oh my. We need a time machine. We need a time
one of those
machine.
like supersonic jets to get to Indy in time.
Yeah, or a spaceship or something.
Get a fucking space. You said Trump's going to the NASCAR?
Yeah, so Trump is allegedly going to the Coke 600, which I'm not really sure how that impacts Kyle Larson's travel plans. Part of me feels like he's attending as, a former president. He's not going to be able to just shut down airspace like he previously would have. The other part of me feels like I'm not, air traffic control. So I don't know how that shit works.
Like if Trump and Larson are trying to show up at the same time, who gets precedence?
Yeah. Or what did they come in together, like in arms?
I think Larson gets precedence, dude. I honestly think pulling double duty is more impressive than being president of the United States.
Yeah.
So,
if I'm
to me,
if there's a favor to be made, you got to throw it to Larson.
Yeah. But we'll see.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, Spider.
Thank you very much, Titus.